Let me talk to you for a moment, not as a coach, not as a speaker, but as someone who knows what it's like to be stuck. Change doesn't come because we want it. It comes because we're willing to release what's blocking it. If you want to change your life, stop thinking you need to add something. More money, more validation, more motivation, more approval. Number. You don't need more, you need less. Let go. Let go of the story you keep repeating in your head. Let go of the pain that you carry like a badge of honor. Let go of the people who treat you like an option. Let go of the job that drains you but makes you feel secure. Let go of the version of yourself that's too scared to step up. You can't carry your past and your future at the same time. You say you want to fly, but you won't drop the weight. You say you want to grow, but you refuse to prune the dead branches. You say you want peace, but you hold on to the chaos like it's all you've ever known. Here's the truth. You are not what happened to you. You are not your failures. You are not your fear. You are not the opinions of others. You are what you decide to become. Clinging to what no longer serves you is one of the biggest obstacles to growth. Many people believe that holding on shows strength, endurance, commitment, or loyalty. But in reality, it often reveals fear. Fear of change, fear of the unknown, fear of who we might become if we truly release the things that keep us in a cycle of pain or mediocrity. Attachment can feel familiar, even comforting, but it silently weighs us down and limits our capacity for transformation. Think about how much mental and emotional space is occupied by things that are no longer relevant or beneficial. Grudges, regrets, past failures, toxic relationships, and old beliefs that were formed under different circumstances. These attachments become mental clutter that distorts our vision. They become the lens through which we interpret every opportunity, every setback, every relationship, and they reinforce a version of ourselves that may no longer be aligned with where we want to go. When you're attached to an identity that no longer reflects your values or aspirations, you stop yourself from evolving. You keep replaying the same scenarios in your mind, expecting different outcomes, when in reality, change only happens when you remove what's blocking your path. Attachment is like dragging a heavy suitcase up a mountain. You may make progress, but it's slow, exhausting, and far more difficult than it needs to be. Letting go is not about erasing the past. It's about accepting it and choosing not to be imprisoned by it. It's about honoring what was, but not letting it define what will be. The strength lies in knowing when to hold on and when to release. And real power comes from release. When you let go, you make space. Space for new thoughts, new energy, new people, new opportunities, and a new sense of self. You stop reacting from a place of pain and start responding from a place of possibility. Consider how many opportunities you've ignored or self-sabotaged because you were too busy holding on to something that felt safe but wasn't serving you. The job you've outgrown. The relationship that drains you. The story in your head that tells you you're not good enough. These things don't just take up time, they take up your future. And no real transformation can happen until you're willing to drop the weight and walk freely into what's next. Letting go doesn't mean you're weak, it means you're wise. It's not a single act, but a daily decision to prioritize your growth over your comfort. And once you start practicing it, you'll notice something incredible. Life begins to open up in ways you never expected. Opportunities come not because the world changed, but because you did. And it all began the moment you decided to let go. Fear of change is one of the most common reasons people stay stuck in lives that don't fulfill them. It's easy to talk about growth, to dream about success, or to imagine a different life, but when it's time to actually move, to make a decision that disrupts your comfort zone, fear kicks in. That fear can feel so real, so convincing that it starts to sound like logic. It tells you, now isn't the right time, or what if it doesn't work out, or worse, what if you fail again? And so you wait, you delay, you stay exactly where you are. But here's the truth. Fear is not the problem, avoidance is. Change, by its very nature, is uncomfortable. It's unpredictable. It requires you to walk into territory that you can't fully control. And that's terrifying to the part of your brain that's designed to protect you. It wants routine, safety, and familiarity. It doesn't care if you're happy, it just wants you to survive. That's why fear often shows up strongest right before something important is about to shift in your life. It's not a sign to stop, it's a sign to pay attention. The problem is, too many people interpret fear as a stop sign instead of what it really is, a signal that you're stepping into new territory. You're growing, you're stretching, you're breaking through old limitations. And yes, that will feel scary, but just because it feels uncomfortable doesn't mean it's wrong. In fact, the more resistance you feel, the more likely it is that you're on the edge of a breakthrough. People often say, I'm just waiting for the right moment. But most of the time, that moment never comes. Life doesn't give you perfect conditions to change, it gives you a choice. You either listen to the fear and stay where you are, or you take the fear with you and move anyway. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to act in spite of it. When you understand this, fear loses its power. It becomes part of the process instead of the barrier to it. Letting go of fear doesn't mean you won't feel it. It means you stop letting it dictate your decisions. It means you realize that growth doesn't happen in the comfortable known places. It happens when you step into the unknown, when you risk failure, when you choose progress over perfection. The sooner you stop negotiating with fear, the faster you'll see change. So the next time fear whispers, don't do it, ask yourself, is this fear protecting me or is it preventing me from becoming who I'm meant to be? Most of the time, the answer is the latter. Letting go of fear doesn't mean you leap recklessly. It means you acknowledge it, respect it, but don't bow to it. You walk forward trembling maybe, but forward nonetheless. That's how transformation begins. Not with certainty, but with courage. One of the most powerful realizations you can have in life is this: you are not your circumstances. Too many people build their identity around their environment, their past, or the opinions of others. They believe that because they were born into hardship, because they failed in the past, or because someone once told them they wouldn't make it, that those things define who they are. But none of that is true. Your identity is not fixed. It is not shaped by what happened to you unless you allow it to be. Circumstances are temporary, but identity is chosen. It's shaped by the stories you tell yourself and the standards you set for your life. Just because you've experienced pain, trauma, or disappointment doesn't mean you are broken or unworthy. Just because you've lived with self-doubt or made mistakes doesn't mean you are incapable of becoming something greater. What defines you is not where you've been, but where you decide to go next. The danger comes when we internalize our environment and let it write our self-worth. For example, if you grew up in chaos or scarcity, you might adopt beliefs like, I'll never have enough, or life is always a struggle. These beliefs turn into a lens through which you see every situation, even when life starts to offer you something better. Instead of reaching for it, you self-sabotage because it doesn't match the identity you've accepted. But the truth is, you are allowed to rewrite that script. You are allowed to evolve beyond what life has handed you. Letting go of your old identity can be uncomfortable. We get used to our own limits, they become familiar. But growth begins where familiarity ends. If you want to step into a new chapter of your life, you must release the version of yourself that was built on survival, pain, or limitation. You must stop saying things like, that's just the way I am, or I've always been like this. Those are not facts, they're stories. And every story can be edited, rewritten, transformed. You don't need permission to change. You don't need validation from the people around you. Most of the time, the people who try to keep you in a box are just uncomfortable with your evolution because it challenges their own stagnation. But your growth is not a betrayal, it's a declaration. A declaration that you are no longer willing to be defined by your past or your surroundings, that you are ready to become the person you were always meant to be. So choose your identity consciously. Choose beliefs that support your future, not your past. Choose a mindset that aligns with your goals, not your fears. The moment you stop letting your circumstances dictate who you are is the moment you reclaim your power. You are not your pain. You are not your environment. You are the architect of your life, and it all starts with letting go of the version of yourself that no longer reflects who you're becoming. Forgiveness is one of the most powerful acts of letting go, yet it's often misunderstood. Many people believe that forgiving someone means condoning what they did, forgetting the pain they caused, or even allowing that person back into their lives. But forgiveness is not about the other person, it's about you. It's about reclaiming your peace and taking back control over your mental and emotional space. When you hold on to resentment, bitterness, or guilt, you stay emotionally tied to the very thing you want to be free from. Unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting someone else to suffer. It corrodes your thoughts, disrupts your sleep, and weighs heavily on your spirit. You replay the moment, the words, the betrayal, hoping that somehow holding on to the anger will balance the scales, but it never does. All it does is anchor you to the past. Forgiveness, on the other hand, is the release. It's the cutting of the cord that keeps you tethered to pain. Letting go through forgiveness doesn't always feel fair, but it is freeing. You may never get the apology you deserve. You may never understand why someone hurt you, but you don't need closure from others to create closure within yourself. Forgiveness is something you do for your own sanity, your own healing, your own future. When you choose to forgive, you're choosing not to let what happened control you any longer. It's not just about forgiving others either. Some of the deepest wounds we carry are the ones we inflicted on ourselves. Mistakes we've made, opportunities we missed, people we hurt, or paths we didn't take. We carry guilt like a burden, believing we deserve to suffer for what we did or didn't do. But self-forgiveness is just as crucial as forgiving others. You cannot grow into your highest potential if you keep punishing yourself for the person you used to be. That person acted with the knowledge and awareness they had at the time. You've grown, you've evolved, and you deserve the grace you so freely offer others. Forgiveness is not a one-time event. It's a process, a decision you may have to make again and again. Some wounds run deep and healing takes time. But every time you choose forgiveness, you loosen the grip of the past. You reclaim more of your energy. You move a little closer to peace. And eventually, you realize that forgiveness isn't weakness, it's strength. It takes strength to rise above the pain, to choose love over bitterness, and to put your future above your past. You cannot fully step into the life you want while carrying the weight of resentment or shame. That weight will always pull you backward. So choose to release it. Choose to be free. Let go of what they did. Let go of what you did. Give yourself permission to move on, not because they deserve it, but because you do. You deserve to be free. You deserve to be whole. And forgiveness is how you get there. One of the biggest myths that hold people back from taking action is the idea that there's a perfect time to start, the perfect time to chase a dream, the perfect time to leave a toxic relationship, the perfect time to change careers, to start healing, to speak up, to move on. But here's the truth. The perfect time doesn't exist. It's an illusion created by fear and perfectionism, dressed up as logic and planning. It convinces you that you're being smart or strategic, when in reality, you're just stalling, waiting for the stars to align, for everything to feel right, for fear to disappear. These are all just ways to avoid discomfort. But transformation doesn't wait for comfort. It requires courage in the face of uncertainty. It requires you to move while your voice is shaking, to act while your heart is pounding, to decide before you have all the answers. The people who succeed in life are not the ones who had it all figured out. They're the ones who move forward anyway. Every moment you wait thinking, I'll start when I feel ready, is a moment you're reinforcing the habit of hesitation. And hesitation over time becomes a lifestyle. You become someone who always talks about what they'll do someday, but never builds the muscle to actually do it. The longer you wait, the louder your doubts become, and the heavier your inaction weighs on you. Real growth begins when you understand that progress comes from movement, not from perfection. You don't need to have all the pieces in place. You don't need a flawless plan. What you need is a willingness to start with what you have, where you are, and trust that clarity comes after you commit, not before. Action is the teacher, waiting is the trap. Letting go of the need for perfect timing is one of the fastest ways to reclaim your power. It's how you step out of indecision and into momentum. It's not about rushing blindly. It's about trusting yourself enough to begin, even with fear in your pocket. Because the truth is, life will always be messy. Circumstances will rarely be ideal. There will always be something that's not quite right, some excuse you could use to stay put. But excuses don't create change, action does. And when you do take that first step, you'll realize something powerful. The moment you move even slightly, the universe starts to move with you. Resources show up, people appear, confidence grows. Not because conditions magically improve, but because you did something different. And that shift is everything. So stop waiting. Don't wait for the fear to go away. Don't wait for the calendar to say it's the right month or the perfect season. There is no perfect moment to change your life, only the present one. And that's more than enough. Take the step, make the call, start the work, do it scared, do it unsure, just do it. Because momentum doesn't come from thinking, it comes from doing. The mind is one of the most powerful tools you possess, but if you're not intentional with what you allow to live in it, it can easily become your greatest obstacle. In a world filled with noise, distraction, and negativity, mental clutter can pile up fast. Just like a cluttered room can make you feel overwhelmed, a cluttered mind can drain your focus, energy, and peace. That's why learning to practice a form of mental minimalism, letting go of toxic thoughts, outdated beliefs, and unnecessary distractions, is essential to living a clear, purpose-driven life. Every day, your mind is bombarded with information. Social media, emails, news, opinions, advertisements, all competing for your attention. Add in your own self-talk, past experiences, regrets, fears, and insecurities, and it's no wonder people often feel mentally exhausted before they've even done anything meaningful. Your mind, like your environment, needs space to breathe. It needs clarity to function at its best. When it's full of noise, you can't think clearly, you can't dream freely, and you can't make decisions that align with your true self. Mental minimalism doesn't mean ignoring problems or avoiding difficult thoughts. It means being selective. It means choosing what deserves space in your mind and learning to let go of what doesn't. It means noticing when a thought pattern is no longer serving you, like self-doubt, comparison, or worst-case scenario thinking, and choosing not to give it energy. It's about recognizing that you don't have to believe every thought you think. Letting go of toxic thoughts starts with awareness. You can't change what you don't notice. Begin by observing your thoughts without judgment. Notice how often your mind drifts into negativity, how often it replays the past or worries about the future. Then, challenge those thoughts. Ask yourself, is this thought helpful? Is it true? Is it leading me closer to the life I want to live? Asterisk. If not, let it go. Replace it with something more empowering. Something that supports your growth, not your fear. Another form of mental clutter is distraction. Constant multitasking, endless scrolling, reacting to every notification, it all chips away at your focus and productivity. To reclaim your mind, you must be intentional with your attention. Create quiet, unplug regularly, protect your energy like it's sacred, because it is. When you create space in your mind, you give your creativity room to grow. You allow peace to replace stress. You begin to hear your own voice again, clearer, stronger, more aligned with your purpose. This kind of mental discipline doesn't happen overnight, but it's a skill that gets stronger with practice. Just like decluttering a room, it starts with small choices. Clear one shelf. Let go of one limiting belief. Say no to one distraction. Bit by bit, your mind becomes a place of clarity rather than chaos. A clear mind is a powerful mind. And the clearer your mind, the clearer your path. Letting go of the mental clutter doesn't just change how you think, it changes how you live. It's not about having less on your mind. It's about having more of what matters. One of the most life-changing truths you can embrace is that your life doesn't change by accident, it changes by intention. No matter how much you wish, hope, or dream, nothing shifts until you do. Until you make a decision, set a boundary, take an action, or commit to a new way of thinking, your life will remain exactly as it is. Many people spend years stuck in the same cycles because they're waiting for something external to come and save them. A new job, a new relationship, a lucky break. But the real shift always begins inside. The most powerful changes start with a choice, a quiet, private moment when you say, I'm done living like this. That moment may come after a breakdown or after years of feeling stuck. It may come in the middle of the night or after a conversation that shakes you awake, but when it comes, it's not dramatic, it's not loud. It's a deep inner knowing that something has to change, and it starts with you. Change doesn't need to be big to be meaningful. You don't need to overhaul your entire life overnight. What you do need is consistency. One new habit, one shift in mindset. One step forward, repeated daily, can transform your world. But for that to happen, you must release the idea that life will magically improve without your involvement. Hope is not a strategy. Waiting is not a plan.